Man, I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like, are people dumber today than they were like 3 or 4 years ago? Like, did the war in Gaza just like break people's brains? Like they only think with emotions and not with logic. Like, like I just don't understand, man. I feel like this is the best time to be rational, not emotional. And by the way, this I'm talking about like Douglas Murray being too emotional in his argument. Now he's crashing out. I'm talking about Hodge twins practically being fucking idiots. I'm talking about Candace blaming the Jews for dinosaurs, and apparently space is what'd you say? Fake and gay, right? Then she has like some argument about aluminum in like a place that's like, I don't know, man. Like she's, what are you talking about? Like, and this all comes down to that argument that, in a sense, Douglas Murray is correct. He said it extremely poorly, but we do need to have a certain standard, and this is not censorship. Like Joe Rogan not wanting to invite a certain person to talk about something is not censorship. It's not like anyone is banning this person from the, from speaking. Okay? It's just, okay, imagine you have like, three stages, right? Um Music festival, okay? You have three stages at a music festival, okay? And like you can't hear the other one when you're in one of them, okay? And it's like you have Avicii, rest in peace, Avicii in one, Swedish House Mafia in the second one, and then let's say Tiesto in the third one. Okay, I'm just throwing names out of my ass, right? Right, and then you have the lineup, not even the lineup, but it's like you go to like the Avicii one, you're hearing Avicii. You go to the Tiesto one, you're hearing Tiesto. Then you go to the Swedish House Mafia one, and they just do like half a set, and then they are like, "Yo, I want you guys to hear this DJ, right?" And they just bring on their buddy, right? Who sucks as a DJ, can't mix for shit, completely bad, and it's like, and then they platform him without him earning the place to be platform or anything like that. It's just like, he's just a buddy, whatever. Or it's like, Swedish House Mafia liked his music, but no one else did. Like, just like on a very personal, what do you call it? Subjective opinion. They just platform this one random guy that nobody likes, right? It's like, why is he here? Why are you platforming this guy? Okay. So that is pretty much, in a very roundabout way, is pretty much the argument of like Joe Rogan shouldn't just platform. And again, it's not a must. It's not a he has to obey these laws, right? But he has to do his due diligence because he's no longer, and not for a while now, he's no longer just some dude talking to some dudes. It's like, oh, I'm just a curious guy and I want to talk to everybody. I get that, and I know that that is basically what the podcast stands for, but at some point you also have some responsibility because what is like 300 million listeners or some shit like that on the Joe Rogan podcast. You are no longer just some guy talking about some shit, and again, sometimes you do, right? We talk about the UFC. It's some guy talking to like fighters and whatever. Like you're talking about like science, whatever, right? I get it. But there's a difference between talking about, health, even like I can't say war tactics because it will go into the next conversation. But when you talk about just like arbitrary science, you talk about what do you call it? Fighting, MMA tactics, whatever. You talk about just like things that don't actually put other people's lives at risk. Okay, and they're not very delicate subjects. For example, when you talk about Russia-Ukraine war, when you talk about the war in Gaza, right? An active military operation, an active war, right? And by the way, this is also very similar. Like, I understand people who are not happy that Joe Rogan had a bunch of, Trump supporters on and not so much Kamala Harris supporters on, right? So I understand that argument in a sense. I do agree with him. I get that it's his platform, he can do whatever he wants, but he should have some responsibility to have like at least like maybe like 30-70 at least. Like obviously 50-50 is very unlikely, but like 30-70, or like when it's a hot topic, you should have some opposition. Like it should be more of a debate between two sides rather than, just like some guy spewing his nonsense, right? I actually, a while back, was it like 5 days ago, right? Which so many views. I made this video, and basically at the end of the video, I asked a simple question of, should Joe Rogan have some responsibility? Because right now Joe Rogan is like the media. He is the media, realistically. Like obviously he's not telling you the news or whatever, but it's like any hot topic that is on Joe Rogan is going to have more views than the hot topic in any other media source. So in my opinion, he should have some due diligence in who he invites. And there was this podcast with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, right? Joe Rogan. I can't type. Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson. Okay, and I believe it was like at around 140. I want to say it was somewhere around here.
Characteristics in him that you envy and that you wish you had yourself. Like if you're a narcissist and a sociopath, you know you are, and you can't really be proud of yourself. You can't.
Right.
You don't. You don't have.
It's a different topic. There's a part of here where he basically talks about like the parasitic narcissists that are just drawn to power, and they're really good at implementing themselves into that field, right? So they would just like say something that you can connect to, and then they'll just start lying. Take Candace Owens. Candace Owens, at some point, I loved Candace Owens, bro. I was like, damn, based, damn, like that's like, cool resources, stuff like that. And then it's like she went off the deep end, but people who still thinks like, oh yeah, she's so based. Now she's going into, honestly, I have a buddy of mine who was really into QAnon to a point like he's still into it. Dude, a lot of the points she's talking about is from that genre of massive conspiracies of like, I'm surprised she's not even talking about the Kazatarians. I don't know, maybe she did. Candace Owens, Kazatarians. I think that's how you spell. Oh, get Candace Owens, St. Huger, you're all guilty. Maybe come there. Yeah, I don't. Maybe she didn't get to that chapter yet. Okay, but wait till she gets there. Okay, you're gonna have the whole like. What was the story with Kazatarians? It was something like there was a place called Kazataria or whatever, and like the Russians came, and the ruling like the king there, whatever, they were actually Zionist Jews, whatever you want to call them, or they were the original Jews. Okay, and then whoever was in control of Russia at that time, like basically the Rus or whatever, they came and they destroyed them, but the royal family managed to escape, and they they multiplied and they spread around the world, and then they created like some church in France that is actually like, their whole spiel is, drinking the blood of children. Yeah, it's gonna get there. Watch, like she's going to get there. So it's all leading there. Okay, and then you have like somebody like this.
They funded all those wars.
Was Hitler bad?
I don't think I think Hitler was bad, yes. Hitler was bad, yes. But
okay, Hitler was bad, but okay. So you get to this point, right? And then I am reminded of the time when the Hodge twins, I couldn't find it for the life of me. I could not find the Hodge twins saying this. I looked. They keep saying America first, right? Not knowing pretty much anything about America first. Now, in my opinion, every country should look after its own interests. No one is an ally at a loss. Everybody has something to gain from an alliance, okay? So, this whole argument, which is, let me just...
If Israel is forced to the wall, the possibility of nuclear exchange is extremely high. That is why it is very important that the United States provide the material aid to Israel. They say that.
So, this argument of... Now, I don't care about why he thinks the US should help Israel. Honestly, in my opinion, I have my own reasons why I think the US should help Israel, but that doesn't matter. The US should decide if it should help Israel for its own benefit. That's what alliances are for. If it is more beneficial, even though it costs so much money and weaponry and whatever, to help Israel to win this war, because I don't know, Israel provides a lot of technology to the US, like a lot of medical technology, whatever. Israel is one of the first ones, if not the first one, to send aid in when catastrophes happen in the US, like what do you call it, like the massive fires, the tornadoes and all that stuff. Israel sends aid as much as they can, pretty much in every crisis, to my understanding, right? If they need the intel in the Middle East, if they need a destabilizing power in the Middle East, yada, yada, yada. If these are beneficial enough to the US, like somebody did the maths, like, yeah, dude, like we need this, like we're gonna support them to like as much as we can to a certain extent because we need them there. That is actually America first. Okay? Similar with like aiding Ukraine. If like you want to aid Ukraine because you need a destabilizing force near Russia and all that stuff, which by the way is a very important reason why Russia is attacking Ukraine to begin with. That is America first, okay? When you say it's like, oh, we should stay away and like what, you're gonna lock yourself away from the world? Like, that is probably the worst thing you can do. Taking a step back from the world and letting the world do its own thing. Dude, the world will move on without you. Okay? The world will move on without you. And usually, if you are not present and you are the strongest force, or like at least on paper, we don't know realistically who's the strongest force. We can assume it's the US, but I don't know how close it is. I know if like it's actually still true. That doesn't matter because I don't have the information. Like everybody's like fucking military power, and then there's also strategy involved. Like good fucking luck, okay? The China can just throw bodies at the US because like there's a lot more Chinese people than there are people in the US, okay? So, and again, wars are not won with people anymore. There's so many factors, right? So it's like, and also like, even if the US is the strongest, let's say US goes to war with Russia, China is going to benefit from this. When you have like you're literally in the Mexican standoff between Russia, US, and China. Okay, and China and Russia are in alliance, but let's be real. If Russia goes into war with the US, China might help Russia, but only to the point where they kind of annihilate each other, so China will have like a massive superior power, right? There's so many things that would come into place. So like to say like, oh, we are the strongest, whatever, and we can just take a step back, dude, the whole world will start orchestrating a way to get ahead of you. That's usually what happens. If you remove your involvement completely, you're kind of fucked, okay? Like, you can't remove involvement. So saying that it's like, oh, US should be America first, right? Where is it? I got moved. Whatever, I moved it. Anyways, US should be America first. You don't know what that means, though. You do not know what America first means. Like, you don't know their interests. You don't know the spy networks. You don't know anything. It's like, oh, we should just stop sending money. dude, money is fine. Like, yeah, you want to save money. I get it. But even if you do, let's say it like this, okay? Like, okay, we're going to stop involving ourselves in foreign war. We're not going to give money to anyone, yada, yada, yada. Right? That's it. We're just fixing our own shit. While you do that, okay, this could increase your prosperity for the, for the like 50, 100 years, whatever. And then it's like, but meanwhile, everyone else just fucking up their power levels. Okay? If you ever played the game, oh man, one of my favorite game. One of my favorite games, bro. I love this game. This game is so much fun. Okay? How am I going to compare it to this? So in this game, right, you start, this is like so, I had this video kind of planned, like this is like so off the rails. So anyway, so this video game, you start in your own like little territory, right? And you start with like one hero, one castle. And your hero has like a certain amount of moves per day. Once you're finished, you have to like, click end the day, whatever, right? So if you ever played this. If you play conservatively, right, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna keep to my own territory. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna farm from here, whatever. I'm gonna develop my castle at first, whatever. Like, I'm just gonna like focus on my territory and like minimize any danger. Meanwhile, you have the other team who's just like sending 3 or 4 heroes at a time. Like, they wasted money to send more heroes to get more influence around the map. Now they have more castles, they killed more monsters, so they have more experience, yada yada yada, right? And even though they are behind on creating tech most times, because like you might be like a week ahead of everyone to create like the best monster. Meanwhile, these guys are like, yeah, they're a week or two behind on creating their like, the ultimate form, and they'll always be behind by some units. But they expanded their territory so much that it's like, even if you go and like try to attack them on one side, they will have another pathway, right? Because you're playing with 1 or 2 heroes, they're already on 8 heroes. Okay, they have a lot more reach. So you can't just be like, oh, America first, we should just like, stay away from all the conflicts. Like, you don't know. You actually do not know if staying out of the conflicts is actually to your benefit. Let's be real. The reason America has become the superpower that it is because it didn't stay out of conflict. It stayed out long enough, but it was always in the conflicts. Okay? It just wasn't directly involved in conflicts. It was always like proxy war for them. So yeah, let's...
and here's America's role. It's a simple role. It does not require American use of force. It does not require American soldiers. First, America must provide Israel the material and moral support to destroy Hamas. Israel will shed extraordinary levels of blood of its own citizens in order to protect civilians in Gaza and to kill terrorists. But Israel will require rearmament, and America should provide it. An Israel wounded by Hamas is an invitation to broader regional and possibly global conflict. Second, America must use...
Again, is there a possibility? Yeah, how probable it is, it doesn't matter. Okay, the whole point here is, and this is actually like, I'll tell you my view about this. If America doesn't support Israel, I don't think Israel is going to lose, but I think Israel will have to be less conservative in its measures. You're sad. You're sad about like, I don't know what is like 10, 15,000 babies based on like Hamas reports. Okay, triple that easily. If Israel is going to have less ammunition, less rockets to defend itself, if it's gonna run out of of Iron Dome rockets for some reason, for a fact they're going on a much harder offensive than they are now. Okay, Israel will not lose this war, and you know what? To Hamas's credit, they clearly don't want to lose it either, even at the expense of all of their civilians, because they don't give a shit about their civilians. Okay? So, if you care about the genocide, you probably want US to keep supplying Israel, because it's gonna get a lot worse if Israel starts running out of that. That's just my opinion. Okay? Israel is not losing this war. Straight up. It is not losing this war. Okay? Gaza will be flattened before Israel loses this war. And that is clearly the last thing you guys would want to do. Oh, they're going to be war criminals? Bro, there's no such thing as a war criminal when it comes to your survival. Okay, would you rather be a criminal or die? Right? If you are, let's say, you're starving, right? Would you rather starve to death or steal some bread? Like, oh, this is not a fair comparison. Actually, it's pretty damn fair. It is pretty damn fair. It is literally survival, because this war is a war for survival, versus being labeled a criminal. Okay, criminal will make things hard. Death will end everything. Okay, so when you are trying to say that, oh, Israel, U.S. shouldn't supply, they're committing genocide, dead children, First of all, price of war. Second of all, and this is probably, oh man, this was my favorite quote. Where is it? I actually might have it on my history here. I'm not sure if it was a short or use. Was it this?
Society and educational system.
Yeah.
Commentator and analyst Coleman.
Yeah.
An army in Hamas that has perfected the art of embedding itself, enmeshing itself with civilians so that you cannot hit them without hitting the people around them. Other armies have done this, but none have perfected it to the extent that Hamas has. No army that I know of in military history has had 15 years to build 300 miles of tunnel underneath a city that they don't use to shelter the civilians, but they use to shelter themselves so that they can operate right under a kindergarten, right under a mosque. So this is a challenge no army has faced. And so that's what makes this war different. And yes, I agree with all of the absolute tragedy and suffering of the Palestinian people, but it's what creates that is the way Hamas fights. And either we can say one of two things.
This is probably like the crux of the matter. I don't even have as much of a problem with them doing this, because I personally don't believe in morals of war, because it's better to be a criminal than to be dead when you're fighting. So personally, I don't really care about this. However,
we can either say, well, Israel doesn't have a clean shot, and so they have to let Hamas get away with it because it's too much to bear. But then we are essentially creating a situation where terrorists have found the perfect solution, which is that you can cross the border, go house to house slaughtering your enemies, and then hide behind your own people and they can do nothing about it. It's a perfect strategy. Can we live in a world where we allow that to be an acceptable strategy? I don't think.
That's it. That is literally the crux on there. I don't really care who is a criminal. I don't care that they're considered terrorists, bro. I watched Braveheart, okay? Braveheart, the Scots would be considered terrorists, okay? Even though they're not attacking civilians, whatever. I'm sure the government that they're fighting, I don't remember, they're fighting the Brits, I believe. I'm sure the Brits would have considered them terrorists, guerrilla fighters, whatever, right? I don't give a shit about that. Like, who cares? We're criminals. Like, okay, well, would you rather be dead? No? Okay. Now, obviously, if you can win the war without committing crime, I know that in the ideal fucking scenario, yeah, okay, obviously that would be better. But that is not the case. Practically ever. This is, like, in this scenario, pretty much any, any military professional that has been in an urban war, an urban location war, where there were still civilians there, would tell you that what Israel is doing is insane. It is actually crazy in a good way. It's like not insane as in a genocide. It's insane how much they're trying to reduce civilian casualties. But I'm sorry, Israel can only do so much. But dead babies and children. Oh, you know what? Yeah, it sucks. Don't start wars. You want, like, this is probably like the thing that bothers me the most. It's like, well, there was an argument of, I think it might be still in this video. I don't remember, but it was like an interview with like one of the Hamas, I don't know if they're like officials or like a higher rank, whatever. But he was asked, why aren't you putting civilians in the tunnels where they would be safer? Like, no, the tunnels are for Hamas, Habibi. Okay, it's for Hamas. You don't use tunnel. Tunnel is for Hamas. Okay, that was my poor attempt at impersonating an accent. But yeah, they don't give a shit about their own citizens. And here's the other thing where it's like, what is the purpose of the government and of the army? On paper, obviously, like we can argue about like if this is actually being done, but the purpose of the army and the purpose of the government is to make sure that the civilians are safe, that they have a system in place where they can flourish, where they are, their security is guaranteed, right? This is like what the police is for as well, to serve and protect, right? Not whatever is happening sometimes with all I've been watching a lot of police videos of like corrupt cops. It's entertaining, but like, man, it sucks that there's so many of them that don't know the laws that they're supposed to be defending, right? It's like, it's really sucks where like cops are forgetting the whole serve and protect part of their job, which is literally their job. But anyways, what I'm saying is that the whole purpose of the government and the military. So if you want to say that Hamas is the military of the Palestinian people and not terrorists, you know what? Fine. Let's go with that argument. Hamas is the army, unit of the Palestinian people. The purpose of the army is to defend its citizens. How come the army is the safest? The army people are the safest, like the army combatants, the combatants are the safest humans, the safest organization, like the safest entity, okay, in this framework. It makes no sense. How are the combatants safer than the civilians that they're supposed to defend? Like, they're literally not adhering. Like, what are they going to fight for? Let's say it like this, okay? If the army is the safest, right? Let's say, okay, the army is always like, fighting in a way that you can't kill them, whatever, right? And then Israel has to, let's say, obviously this is probably never going to be the case, because I still believe that Israel is trying to minimize civilian deaths. But let's just say like this: you want to annihilate Hamas, like take all 30,000 of them and make them zero, okay? And the last one is like super dodgy, right? And he's avoiding everything. And because he's avoiding everything, and it's like you can never catch him, whatever. I'm like, obviously this is like super hypothetical, never gonna happen. Okay. All of the civilians end up dead. What is this guy fighting for then? What is this last Hamas soldier fighting for? His cause is done, right? Because like his cause is supposed to be to defend the civilians. What are you fighting for? What's the purpose of your army if you cannot defend if you're purposefully not only not defending your civilians, you are purposely using them as human shields, right? As like, these guys need to die first. So yeah, man, I don't know, this whole thing. And honestly, there was this, I couldn't find it. Ben Shapiro, Ben Shabiba, he said something that basically, with the context of like how people read it, and I remember the Hodge twins said this, that he said something along the lines of, the only reason I feel safe living in the US is because Israel exists, or something like that. I'm obviously like not saying it word for word. I don't remember the exact thing, but I remember the sentiment. And people are like, oh, he's Israel first, man. It's like you should go to Israel, da da da. You don't feel safe in the US. And honestly, let's be real. I don't know if during peaceful times, it's fine. You don't think about these things. But let's be real. If you keep seeing people like this, which I'm gonna play this in a second, right? Like Hitler is bad, but people. When you have Palestinian supporters, Hamas supporters in universities harassing Jewish students, preventing them from accessing facilities, right? When you have so many riots in the streets or protests, whatever you want to call them, sometimes protests, sometimes a bit more riots, anti-Israel, right? When you have swastikas being drawn on, in graveyards. This is like more known in Canada, I think. Swastikas being drawn in graveyards and stuff like that, where it feels like the most vocal people in the country you live are anti-Semites. Can you really think that Ben Shapiro doesn't make a point? Because he can be prosecuted here just for this, because he's a Jew, because again, we learn from history, always happens, right? It's like, well, maybe the Jews are the bad guys because everywhere they go, they get prosecuted. Maybe. Sure, whatever. I'm sure not every Jewish person is an evil person, but meanwhile we are prosecuting them for being Jewish. But yeah, the Jew person is the bad guy. Fucking common sense, right? So in that scenario where like literally again you have people like this, okay, all of the protests that are basically anti-Israel and pro-Hamas, all of this, which is extremely similar to, I wouldn't say one for one, but there's a lot of similarities from that and like early 1930s, late 1920s, okay? And back then, Jews had no place to run to if shit hit the fan. Then I think it's very understandable why somebody, like a Jewish person, especially like an outspoken Jewish person, would be pretty damn happy that a place like Israel exists, because if he and his family get prosecuted here for being Jewish, at the very least, he has a safe plan B. Okay, he has a safe retreat. Okay, he has a safe base of operations if shit hits the fan. Right? When you go exploring, let's say like you're a caveman and you want to go exploring and you create like your own little network of like, okay, here's my main cave. Okay, this main cave, nothing should happen to it. This is where I keep all of my food. This is where like I know where everything is. I know that there's like vegetation on this side, whatever. I want this place to be as safe as possible. But I know that if I stay here, I'm going like on such a weird tangent right now. If I stay here, I will eventually starve. Right? This is not going to be enough. Like it doesn't regenerate enough for me to like to survive or to grow a family, okay? I have to go to another place, right? And then you go to another place, and it's like that place is not as important in a sense that it's not as, you don't need to be as productive or as safe or as anything compared to the first place. The first place is like when shit hits the fan, I still have this place. I don't know if this example makes sense, right? It's literally like the backup plan. You can't have your backup plan fail, okay? It's like, so to say that, he's Israel first, I wouldn't say it's necessarily wrong, but I feel like many Jews, especially when time gets like this, they are extremely happy that a place like Israel exists, because they will take them in with no fucking problem, no exception. Like they're just like, this is a safe haven if you're Jewish, because the whole world is out to get you. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to cover here. Yeah, we have more to talk about, but I think I'll leave that for another one. I won't talk about this podcast quite a lot. There's like 3 or 4 points here that I want to talk about. One of them we already did mention. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.